it is time for a new update, and today we're going to be talking about one of the keys of compassion, which is part of our ongoing series, but we're going to tie in a current event as an example of how to apply it. So we're going to be talking today about the second key, which is, I can't even get these straight, contracts and promises. This key is about the contracts and promises that we make in the inner life with individuals to help us learn our lessons. And and these are all placed on what we call the life blueprint. A lot of you don't know what a life blueprint is. That's part of why I'm talking about this. The life blueprint contains all those contracts and promises, and it is to learn the lessons that we came here to learn. And the lessons are always around the core beliefs that we have developed along the way in our many incarnations that have not been functional. They're dysfunctional. So you could say, and the core beliefs are how we think about the light and the dark. You know, maybe the dysfunctional one is that we feel disempowered by the dark instead of using it as a tool. So then we develop beliefs around some aspect of the dark, and that becomes a core belief. And we bring those in lifetime after lifetime, trying to work them out to where we regain our power from that dysfunctional way of thinking. So contracts, so the life blueprint always has all these life lessons on them and all the events that will transpire through which the lesson will be learned. The contract part of the life blueprint are the contracts we make with other souls to play out different roles in the life blueprint. The role is something that we script for that individual that we're in contract with, and the purpose of the role and the purpose of scripting it is so that it will perfectly mirror back to us that core belief inside of us. And the reason we do this is because we can't see our beliefs. We can't turn our eyeballs inward and see them. We have to have someone else act them out for us. So, moving on, every single life blueprint has, every event through which a lesson is learned has 5 options in how you're going to handle it. Which option you choose determines the outcome. It also determines the next event, the next lesson, and how easy or how difficult that next lesson becomes. So let's talk about the 5 options. Option A is obviously the highest one. There's option A, B, C, D, and E. A is the best choice to make, but it requires the greatest amount of courage and faith. And it requires, and to choose an option A, you must understand how things work on the higher level. And that's what the keys are all about. They give you all those higher dimensional concepts and principles to which to apply, that when you apply them, they enable you to create an option A. When you create an option A, you're basically walking into the fear, holding on to nothing, and very quickly, and you're able to see whatever the core belief is, the dysfunctional part of the core belief, and then be able to change it. And when you change it, your life immediately changes for the better. Okay, and option B is you may step into the fear a little bit, but then you'll step back and you'll start to blame and blah blah blah. C, you do that more. D, you do that more. And then E, which is the one you really don't want to choose, is one where you completely miss the point of the lesson. You blame the other person, and you're the victim, and everything's unjustified and just filled with anger and resentment. An example of that would be our current national crisis. So let me just use that. All right. But before I do that, let me explain something to you. Not only do individuals have life blueprints, but nations have blueprints too. And it's the people and the leaders of the nation. Whatever the people do on a soul level or on an individual level will be exactly what the leaders do, because the leaders will reflect back the people's consciousness. So if the people act like victims, the leaders are going to act like victims, and of course victims always want to be bailed out, right? So if we're looking for a bailout, they're going to be looking for a bailout. So anyway, moving on. Every time, okay, let me think about where I am. So to apply this key and the idea of option A, B, and C, and D, and E, this is how it will look. If we choose an option A and we walk into the fear, that means that on an individual level, we're going to take responsibility for the fact that if we ended up buying a house we couldn't afford and we're defaulting on the payment, that we take responsibility for that and not blame somebody else. It doesn't matter what the guys on Wall Street did. It doesn't matter if they got us into this crisis. The truth is they couldn't get us into anything that we didn't agree to. And the way we agreed to it is buying houses we couldn't afford, going out spending money on credit cards, and then only making minimum payments or not making them at all and defaulting on our credit cards. So basically overspending what we didn't have, buying things we couldn't afford, and doing it all on credit. That's what created this. They didn't force us to do this. We chose to do this. So if we're willing to take responsibility for our actions and maybe give up whatever we have to give up, and then turn it over to our guides or God and say, okay, show us the way out of this. I mean, we'll do the work. We're not blaming anybody else. It's our responsibility. It's our choices. We take full responsibility. Then that is an option A. And if we do an option A, then Congress will pass a package that works for the people. If we do not choose an option A, if we choose a B or a C or a D, or hopefully not an E, we're going to see that reflected in Congress. Right now we saw Congress not pass the first bill or the first package, not approve of it. So that tells us that we certainly didn't choose an option E. So we're either, you know, and we're not an A yet, because so far it still looks like we're going to be, you know, paying the price for the most part. So whatever we do as an individual, collectively, and as a nation, that is what our leaders are going to do. They're going to reflect back to us our own personal choices. So if we act out of fear, they're going to act out of fear, because that's the deal with a national blueprint. Okay, so if you are going to choose an option A in your life, you just have to be responsible and be willing to walk away from whatever you need to walk away from, without anger toward the other person, and realize that this was your lesson and you helped co-create it. So that's how you apply contracts and promises. And if you will do that, things will work out well for you. You may not lose your house. You may end up with a better job than you had before, because a new industry will start up. But regardless, when you take responsibility and you learn the lesson, things work out very clearly. These situations are only there to reflect back to you what you're trying to clear. All right, so hopefully that will help you, and I'll talk to you next week.